I hope they all nail it.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to see just a bloodbath of crazy muscle conditioning. And, you know what I mean? I don't care who wins. I just want to see crazy muscle up there on stage.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to our Olympia preview. I'm going to be here with Coach Andrew Barry. He happens to be coaching Missy Trescott for the fitness division at the Olympia, so best of luck to them. And we are with super heavyweight Nate Speer. Nate's one of the best bodybuilders in the NPC right now. I figured that between the three of us, we're going to have a lot of fun breaking down the Olympia and making our predictions. I've got a bunch of questions for the guys, like who's their favorite dark horse, who will be the most improved, and of course, the big question, who's going to take the title. I'm curious to know what you guys think too. So do me a favor and comment below with who you think is going to win the Olympia this year. And listen, guys, if you haven't subscribed to our content, we'd love to have you along because we have tons of bodybuilding education and some entertainment. We can help you be better at the sport that we love. All right, guys, let's get to it. So the first question I have for you guys, traditionally the Olympia is a show that you have to take out the champ. Like, you can't just be a little bit better. You have to, like, flat out, be head and shoulders above. Ramy is freaking incredible. This last year, I think he kind of like fulfilled what we've all like hoped for a really, really long time. And there were so many times he didn't nail it. If he was to nail this again, and we were to see like the best that Ramy could be, is there anybody that can beat that?
Go ahead, Nate.
I don't think so personally. There's always like what ifs or whatever, but if Ramy's 100%, and like my opinion is like last year Ramy wasn't even 100%. He was really good, don't get me wrong, but I think there's still a lot more that could be fulfilled. And now he's got another year with Chad. He's been in the States for 5 or 6 weeks. All these variables that add up to an athlete sort of being at their best. Dennis, he's trained with Dennis James every day. I know Dennis is brutal at posing, and that's why he sort of did so well last year as far as perfecting the presentation, holding the poses. So it's really, going through sort of the evidence per se, I would say, we're expecting him to see him at his best, and it's really sort of hard to knock that off, especially because, he's got the size, he's got a good shape too, I think, because when you talk about like maybe guys like Nick or Hadi, they don't have that shape that Ramy brings with the size, right?
Okay. So what do you think about that then, Andrew? If we were to see Ramy at his best, is he beatable?
Yeah. I'm going to go, well, if he's at his best, like I think his best still was at the New York Pro a couple years back, honestly. I thought his conditioning there was lights out. I believe, wasn't he with Chad for that one?
I thought it was DJ, actually. That was his first.
Was that with DJ?
Coach.
Okay. It's hard to remember because he coached, he bounced around a few times there. But I look at it this way. Ramy's missed a lot more time than he's hit, right? Like in my mind, he's hit it 2 times out of the, let's say, 10 appearances that we've seen him on stage. I look at someone else who's done nothing but nail it at each level, starting from the North Americans to the Chicago Pro to the New York Pro to the Arnold Classic, and Nick Walker. He's gotten better and better, and I think he's been as good as he could be at that date each time in terms of physique, conditioning, posing, poise, abdominal control. I'm not going to go so far as to say there's an upset because, like you said, Scott, like you have to knock the champ out. But if Ramy is not as good as if he doesn't look as good as he did last year, and Nick comes in looking like he did at the Arnold last week, I could definitely see an upset, and I wouldn't shake my head at that. I'd say that's fair. So
did I hear you right? Because you broke up just a little bit for a second there. Are you saying that Nick Walker could step in?
I'm saying that yes, based off of nailing it and not nailing it. Ramy has missed a lot more times than he's nailed it.
Yeah.
I look at someone like Nick who's nailed it literally every time over the last 4 times he's competed and gotten better each time and has posing, control, abdominal control, all those other factors. And if he comes in the same way he did at the Arnold and Ramy is not at least the same way he was at the Olympia last year, I could see someone like Nick knocking him off.
That would be, I think, one of the most incredible storylines I have ever heard since I've been a fan of the sport. Like if Nick Walker could come in.
I was wrong last week. And I said I don't think Nick's going to win. So I gotta say Nick's going to win this week. So hopefully I'm right. Honestly, I bet. impressed at him every step of the way, and I was really impressed with him. I was 20 feet away from him on stage last week, and he was by far and above number one. There was nobody was close to him the other day. So.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Nate?
I was gonna say I'd love to see Nick win because historically no one's ever won their debut Olympia. So
Yeah.
I mean, except for the first Olympia winner, but that would be pretty cool to watch history be made. Because I mean, at the end of the day, not to get too sidetracked, but it's so cool to watch what Nick's doing because no matter what, you have to respect that. You know what I mean? And whoever doesn't, then I'm sorry for you. But it's like whether you like him or not, like what he's doing is like sort of you're watching history sort of be made, and it's pretty cool to watch that unfold.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. It would be an incredible storyline. Let me ask you guys this: let's say that Ramy isn't quite on. Who would be the guys closest to being able to jump into that spot in your opinions? Either you're welcome to throw that at me.
I've got a tier of like 4 guys, maybe 5 that could win possibly. Ramy, Nick. Brandon, I would say Brandon's in that 5th spot probably, but Brandon could very well, if his legs are up and he's conditioned, Bonac and Hottie.
Okay.
Those are my 4 or 5 that I think have a shot at it, but I do think Ramy's the odds-on favorite, and I would put Nick on, with his trajectory, his confidence right now. Like he's not going to look worse, so yeah, I think it's going to be those 2.
What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think I would really love to see Brandon come back and sort of shock some people because
that would be cool.
No one's really talking about him, and it's like he won the Mr. Olympia. He got runner-up last year. He does seem to keep getting better. Like I think last year his conditioning was spot on, but he just didn't quite have that same fullness that he tends to be known for. So if he can sort of match that conditioning and his fullness, especially obviously the lower body, which he's usually knocked for, then he definitely could give Ramy a run for the money. And like I would agree, Hottie and Nick. I mean, they definitely could. I don't know if I could see Bonac doing it because I don't know if Bonac could get past Nick at this point, honestly.
Really?
True.
Because like the size factor, and like Andrew said, we know Nick's what he's got to bring. Nick doesn't disappoint. And one of the best things about Nick is, like I've talked about this with a few people, is in pro bodybuilding, there's not many people that hit it like that consistently. Detail, dryness, hardness. I think that's why Dexter Jackson was so good. You know what I mean? Is like, he always came in on, and Nick has the muscle too, so it's something special, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I'm looking at the list now, trying to think if there's anybody else I could see. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Bonac at the Arnold. That would have, I think, told us a lot. We've heard so many things about Hottie. I've heard I mean, there's so much like rumor, like, oh, they would never give it to Nick because he is new. You could find people saying stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's what I think, but you could find people saying like, oh, it's the politics. They're not going to give it to a guy. But then you hear stuff about.
I know for a fact.
Okay.
Let me just say, I know for a fact that there's 2 very high level judges that are on this panel that are really high on this kid. Like,
yeah,
really high on him.
Okay.
Yes. Like,
well, that says a lot right there.
Well, I think too, what we're seeing is, I think 10, maybe like 8 years ago, I would go by that, but I think we're seeing a changing of the judging where they're sort of letting people win that might not supposed to win. You know what I'm saying? I think, and a perfect example is like Phil Killar went from 12 or 13th to a show, and then the next one, you know what I mean? He was second or whatever.
He was fourth, and then he moved up to second.
You know what I mean? And same with. A lot of people are giving Ian crap because he has like a bigger following, but Steve, dude, is known to the judges love him. Like he's gotten a lot of quote unquote gifts, some people would say, in the past before like Nick and all these guys. So he's always like the good looking sort of all American guy. So, and he was in his hometown of Texas. So like all these things, and they went with Ian, so
okay.
I think these newer judges, especially Tyler, is sort of head of that ring, and they're sort of leading the way as far as like letting let the body do the talking, and we're going to judge that.
Well, the reason that I ask is, so does that mean that they could let him win, Hottie?
If he's the best looking guy, then absolutely. Like I think especially Tyler, as Nate brought up, he doesn't have any like favorites or any like he doesn't follow the old rules of. Maybe the rule even of like you got to be like so much better than the champ to knock him out.
Yeah,
I think he judges it as he sees it that day. Whoever looks best that day, they're going to win that show.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Nate about that because, like you said, he brought up Phil LaClar, he brought up Ian, beating Steve, and Steve's not to take anything away from Steve, but Steve's kind of been the golden boy for a lot of shows where
Sure.
maybe conditioning wise he probably shouldn't have been placed or as high as he did or won. So yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Um,
Because I see Hadi as being right up there. You know what I mean? Like
oh
he's
yeah,
someone that like I feel like everybody's wanted him to win now. And I mean, have we seen him? Have we seen him on stage this past year?
no,
No.
not
Okay.
since the
Okay.
Olympia.
I definitely think if he brings, maybe 5 or 7 pounds heavier with the same package from Vancouver that he showed up in, like he could definitely smoke people. Like, because I mean, the detail and the dryness and like the separation is like crazy. Like hamstrings, glutes, like all his details are pretty nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do know that he was told not to show up with his shoulders as pointy as they were
Oh
last year.
yeah. Really?
Yeah, like yeah, firsthand, I do know that happened. So,
Okay.
guys do different things, whether it's their regular gear or they're just trying to bring up a body part or just day of the show type stuff. But I do think they do crack down on that when it's very obvious. And I don't know in this situation there was a conversation about it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. One of the other things I wanted to ask you guys about, and I think that Nick falls into this category, is momentum. Who are some of the guys you can think of that have the best momentum coming into this contest? Maybe not even to win the thing, but maybe have enough momentum that they're going to potentially have a better chance of doing well just because they've got so much, behind them coming into this. Guys like Nick, for instance.
I mean, Nick's the first and only name really momentum wise, just because like his trajectory from last year's North Americans to this last weekend, it's been nothing but straight up and down, straight up.
Yeah.
Like because I think we see a lot of guys they turn pro and they're good and they have their real first growth season and then they hit the scene and they do well. Like I'm thinking of guys like Hunter. Like do we think Hunter's going to be in that first 4 or 5? No, I mean I don't personally. Right.
Yeah, I couldn't see Hunter in the if he broke top 5, if he were to hit 5th place, I feel like that would be a very huge accomplishment for him. That would be a great place to be.
Or even guys like who had the momentum like maybe a year or two ago, Patrick Moore.
Oh
I
yeah.
know everybody was so high on him for I feel like 6 months, 9 months after that. Was it the first Olympia appearance, and then I think leading into the following Arnold or something like that. I get the dates mixed up, but yeah, I really can't think of anyone having straight momentum other than Nick right now because I feel like a lot of these guys they had their hype and then they kind of settled into the pack. And not to say that they don't look good or they're not doing great things. It's just everyone's really good at this level.
Okay. Yeah.
And some people are just setting themselves apart a little differently.
Well, I think the Arnold shot that down for a lot of people because I mean Ian had a lot of momentum and that sort of. He still got second. Don't get me wrong, that's a great placing. But now he's going to Olympia with like 4 or 5 other guys that are sort of ahead of the pack on him. So, and a guy like Akeem, he had a lot of not necessarily hype, but I mean, a lot of people thought that he might win the Arnold Classic, and he sort of, didn't quite show up the way we were hoping. So I think the Arnold definitely like sort of shot some people down as far as momentum train goes.
Well, here's the other thing too, Nate, is that like I think like Akeem's gotten better and better over the last couple of years too. Like he's kind of nailing his condition, I think, as well as he can. His physique has developed. You know what I mean? It's not like he's coming in like way off. It's just I think we're seeing guys that are just genetically a little bit better and that are a little bit drier.
Because not only that, it's like if you think about like a year to 2 years ago, these guys like their progression is crazy. Like you look at got like Hunter, James, Nick, obviously, even Ian. You know what I mean? These guys are continually getting like crazy better. Now, sort of where Akeem was like sort of above them. Now it's sort of they're catching up. I think.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you guys this: based off of what we saw from Akeem at the Arnold, what would he need to do to be better coming up here at the Olympia just a couple weeks later?
Do you have a back shot of him?
I don't offhand. I just have one shot of everyone.
Okay, I was fairly impressed with like his conditioning from like his rib cage down from the front, and even his lower back from the back and his glutes. Like I feel like he maybe from years of just getting bigger and stretching the skin out, his upper back just doesn't get hard and dry. and the skin is like thicker there. And even like this is actually a pretty good shot for him. But when he goes into like his side chest shots, I'm pointing at the screen like he's doing it, like an idiot. When he goes into his side chest shots, like you see like a little bit of a loose skin that kind of hangs just a little bit there, and so I mean, but for, like I said, from the waist down, which is typically where most guys are going to be a little bit, worse conditioned compared to like their abdominals or their pecs or their arms or whatever. Like his lower back was super dry and hard and tight and had all the lines and everything, but his upper lats and his upper back looked like it was like 4 weeks behind comparatively. So like I think they just got to figure out a way to like get that skin thinner there. It's magic basically.
Here's a question for you, Andrew, because you were there in person. So for a guy like Akeem, do you think this would make a big difference if, say, he went to one show with sort of bad lighting and then another show that had better lighting? Would that sort of make his physique a little bit better because he's so dark?
Yes. And it's the same thing I think we mentioned a couple shows back about Bundy when we did like a Tampa wrap up. Like Bundy was in crazy condition, but his skin is so dark that with certain lighting, like you just couldn't see all the little striations in his lower back or his glutes and everything. But then you see a picture of him from a hotel room or from somewhere else, and you're like, oh, this guy was peeled. It just didn't show up. It just didn't, you couldn't see that indicated on stage with the particular lighting that they had.
Yeah, I could see that. Got another question for you guys. I know I've got a bunch. All right. So out of everybody we've got in this lineup, who would you consider to be the dark horse? Who's going to surprise us this week?
I think James Hollingshead. He looks freaking pretty gnarly right now. Like as far as like dryness, conditioning, he still has some good roundness to him. I don't think he has like the best shape per se, but I think some guys are starting to fade. Like I think Ian's fading a little bit. I think Hunter might be. He hasn't done a bunch of shows, but he's been in shape for quite a while. I think he might be. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say on Instagram, but he looks a little tired maybe. But obviously it's hard to say. But he comes with a little bit of film. Usually when I notice, I think James's conditioning can sort of match some of those upper guys we were talking about. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the top 5, maybe.
I'm scared in a way, and I think I mentioned this on one of the other shows we've done that, like as a coach, I love the idea of being able to get somebody in shape, get them on stage, and then look at how they look and be like, okay, yeah, I love this. Let's do this, except for let's, tweak this, and these little things. And James is putting all of his eggs into this one basket, and that obviously it can work. Guys do it all the time. But there is because I really want to see him do well. Like I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. My heart's racing for this one because I can't wait to see the way he looks. And I hope that they freaking nail it. Because I agree, man. He was my pick too for Dark Horse.
I hope they all nail it.
Yeah.
I want to see just a bloodbath of crazy muscle conditioning. And, you know what I mean? I don't care who wins. I just want to see crazy muscle up there on stage. One guy, I'm interested to see how he's going to do because he's been up and down, I feel, in a sense, in Justin Rodriguez. If you saw him last week from the morning show, I wouldn't have been surprised if he slipped into the second spot. Night show, I think they really overcarved up because he came back and his legs and just his midsection was blown out. His legs were huge, but there wasn't a cut to be seen. Like he was so full, like, when you get done doing like the craziest leg workout and you can't even like flex and see a line or like any separation, they look like that. Just like when you're trying to flex them, like they were full.
Yeah.
And, so I think, that obviously they had a strategy and they tried something, and I think they would agree it probably didn't work. He looked better, just slightly drier and a little bit less full. But I really like his physique because I really love his front double. I love his rear double when he hits it right. I like his most muscular. I feel like he's a guy that hasn't completely gotten his due in the IFBB. I feel like there's some show like I think he could have beaten Akeem last year at the Chicago. I feel like he could have won. What show did he do this year?
He was at the Indy.
Was it either the Indy or the New York? I can't remember now. There's one show that I felt like he could have done a little better. But I'd be interested to see because this will be his fourth show of the year, maybe. Yeah, fourth show of the year.
Yeah, it'll be fourth.
We're talking about longevity and competing back to back to back versus not competing at all and putting all your eggs in a basket. I'd be interested to see how this happened or how it goes for him because he did hook up with AJ again, and I feel like AJ Sims had him looking like spot on last year for the Chicago. Like just some of those hotel
Yeah.
pictures with like the magic lighting and stuff. His skin was like translucent. You could see his his organs. So I'd be interested to see how he looks this week. I'm going to say he's my dark horse. He might shock some people and get into that top 5.
That'd be cool. I could see that too, because he's kind of been, right up there this whole year.
Yeah.
He's done really well, just been a little step off from being his
Yeah.
best. I'm kind of looking down the list here at anybody else we hadn't looked at yet. Yeah.
Do we have? Is Rolly doing it or not?
I'm not sure about that, honestly.
I haven't seen any. I tried to look it up the other day, and I don't know if he's doing it in preparation for this show that we're talking about. I mean, we all agree he didn't have a good showing at Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's no way he's going to go to the Olympia bringing that same package if he is in fact in the Olympia. I just haven't seen anything from his camp or from him about being here in the States or what he's doing. So I don't know. Okay, so that's another one that. I mean, if Rolly's on, like he's up in that top 4 or 5 too,
Yeah, but I don't think he could, and it's like John had mentioned at the Chicago when we did that wrap up, he was like, he's down in size this year. And I had even asked him at that point, I was like, do you think he could get that back in time for the Olympia? And John was like, no way, not this year. And I'd have to agree with that. He wasn't the Rolly that we all want to see,
No. Well, he was down in size and condition, which is really weird, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like someone got like some fake gear or something. Like it had that kind of look to it. You know what I mean? Like they got home and found out their trend was just like straight test.
That he was huge. Everyone's like, "Oh, I want to see him shredded." And now
Yeah.
he's like really good condition, but just smaller.
Let's see, who else have we not talked?
We got Reagan.
Oh, you know what? Reagan's a good shape guy. I don't know if he carries the size to compete with the top 6-7 guys that we've kind of discussed already.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, he always looks better in pictures. I think leading up to the show, he's got good lighting and stuff like that. And then I'm always like, he just sort of never really. He always got to be like 5 or 10% sharper, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He really judges physique.
Does he have enough size to be competitive at the Olympia level?
In pictures, he does, as Nate pointed out. But then on stage, when I see him next to other competitors, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Not to contend with the top 5, 6, 7 guys. I don't think
He's
now.
young too, right? So I mean,
He's been young for like 5 or 8 years now. So
okay.
at some point, you're in your 30s and you're not young anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I remember like watching his video when he first came out, like on YouTube, and that I feel like that was like in 2015 or 16 or something. So
yeah, I guess it's been a
I
little
don't know
while.
if we can count him as young anymore.
Okay.
I mean, this should be his prime. He's been on the scene for a good 5 solid years, competing as a pro. He should be going into his prime at this point.
I mean, not to be too critical, but I mean, I see guys like, in their videos, James, Ian, Hunter, sort of the way they're training, and then I do see videos of Regan, and I'm like, it doesn't quite seem to be the matching up with these guys. So maybe that might be. I don't know. I don't want to be too judgmental because I mean they are the top athletes in the world. So
yeah.
Is this Andreas Presti? Is that how you say his name?
He actually gets peeled.
Yeah, he might be the hardest guy on stage coming from Showtime.
Okay.
He could very well be.
Glutes are like, he's got like those crazy like fucking walnut glutes.
Yeah.
He's got some cool shape too. He's got some cool shape.
His legs were like a little bigger. I could see him being in like maybe like 6 or 7 or 8, maybe like contending with like one of Hunter, those guys. But I think his legs are just a little too narrow to sort of hang with those guys. But yeah, his conditioning, and he's actually a pretty big guy. I mean,
yeah.
I think his legs are a little shallow.
Yeah.
And then the guy that I always want to see just a little bit leaner because he has, I think, the most incredible legs in the sport of bodybuilding is Hassan. I'm rooting for him still. And, Andrew and I were talking a little bit before the show about him. He's a guy that I think he freaking loves the sport, and this guy's been in like, I think every show almost. I mean, maybe not every show, but he's been in almost every contest.
Did Indy, New York, Chicago, Arnold. I think there was one more in there too, right?
Tampa?
Yes, Tampa.
Yeah.
So that's at least 5. Was there a California show?
Yes.
Didn't he go and do that too?
I think he did. Yeah.
So that'd be 6, and this would be his 7th of the year, which is for a professional bodybuilder. That's crazy.
Yeah, and a guy that size.
That's Milos type stuff.
I mean,
But
his.
to that, no, go ahead.
I just was gonna say in this picture we have up from Tampa, his cheekbones were shredded. Like you know what I mean? Like if I were to just look at his face, I'd be like, the guy's peeled. Do you guys think that there is a possibility? Are his legs as lean as they can get? You know, is he as tight as he can get? Is there a chance that for some people genetically that it's just good? Obviously, it could be harder for some people than others. Is there a chance that he can't get there?
I think a lot of guys and their coaches are afraid to let them go too flat, especially at this level. And maybe like the coaches are afraid to let them go too flat for their egos more than anything. Um, so I do think a guy like with his musculature and I think he could be leaner. I think if someone starved I mean, we'll look at it. We were saying having this conversation about Akeem a couple years back, right? Where Akeem always seemed to be like 3-4 weeks out. And then now Akeem's coming in for the most part pretty spot on. Like his legs, his glutes are in, his lower back's in, where that used to be the knock on him years ago. So someone figured it out with him on how to diet him down and get him in shape. So I think maybe it's just the right combination of coach and athlete here.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd
He
be
definitely
great.
needs like a fresh start too. You know what I mean? I think 'cause at this point, I mean, you know what I mean. His body's probably fighting him. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the only other guy maybe we didn't talk about was Muhammad.
I really like Muhammad's physique, man. I know he's not going to be a contender in the top, 7, 8, 9 guys, but like you want to also talk about legs. Like he's got some wacky friggin' legs.
Yeah.
It actually
weird.
makes like his upper body. What's that?
I felt like a couple shows. I felt like he might have got overlooked a little bit too, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely did.
Yeah.
I-
Well,
I
it's going to be
agree.
fun. It's going to be a fun show. And I'm with you, Andrew. I think that's, as a fan, that's like the number one thing I think any of us could want is for everybody to come in absolutely peeled. And at that point, I don't really care who wins because it's going to be just one hell of a bloodbath. I think that was the phrase you
that way,
used.
too, 10 years from now, we can say, remember 2020 when 2021, everyone was peeled out of their mind.
Yeah.
We can, like, throw it in the young guys' faces.
Yeah.
Back in my day.
Seriously. Well, I think like, we always talk about like for me, one of my favorite Olympias was that 1998 Olympia when Ronnie and Flex went at it. It's like
Yeah.
you're going back and then you also had what's his name? Nasser.
Yeah.
But like you're looking at Ronnie and you're looking at Flex and you're looking at their backs in the rear double and you're like, that's the best back in the world. And then you look, oh wait, no, that's the best back in the world. And you're like going back and forth and then they're doing a side chest. And I mean, that was just a crazy, crazy one for me. So I'm hoping for another one like that. I hope everyone just comes and peeled out of their mind.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's close this thing out, and we'll look forward to hearing, seeing what happens. I'd be curious too, because I'm going to get this up. It'll come out Monday, so this will be in plenty of time for all of our viewers to tell us what they think. I want to hear what everybody else thinks and what your predictions are.
Did we actually give our technical top 5 prediction?
Do you want to do top 5?
Yeah,
we're going to throw that out there. All right.
Loser
All right.
shaves his head. No.
You first then, Nate. What do you got for us?
Go for it, Nate.
Okay, so I got number 1, Ramy. Number 2, I'll put Nick. Number 3, Hottie. Number 4, Brandon. And because I'm living on the edge, I'll put number 5, James.
Whew.
Wow.
I would be happy to see that. Like if I were to see that, I would be happy for literally everybody up there. That would be a crazy result.
Mm-hmm. You want me to go?
Of course, yeah. Gives me
All
more
right.
time to think.
All right, just add some controversy. I'm going to go Nick. I'm going to go Rami. I'll go Brandon. And then I'm going to go William. And you know what? Nate talked me into James. And I just saw that picture that he posted a minute ago, actually. So
Yeah, the bat.
I'm gonna go James.
Yeah.
For my 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna shock the world. Yeah.
I think James is going to shock the world. I'm counting on it, actually. In fact, I'll say I'm going to say that James will jump ahead because he's had a whole year, right? James has done so much with his physique in the past 2-3 years. We haven't seen him lined up next to everybody in a while. He might not have like the same shape as a Brandon Curry, but he's got that round muscle still. And I think we're going to see that on stage. So I'm going to say that Ramy comes in off, okay? Because Ramy comes in off, there's going to be an upset. Dude, I'll call it. I'll say that Nick wins then, all right? I'll say it. That way too, because here's the other thing. I have a chance of getting Nick on the show. I don't have a chance of getting Ramy on the show. So I could be like, Nick, I called you, bro. You got to join us. No. But there is some reality to that too. I'll say Nick because it's fun. And then from there, Ramy takes second. Then I'll say Hottie third. I'll say James fourth. And then who am I really missing here? Bonick. I have a feeling Bonnick's not, I'm just going to say Bonnick's not going to show up, or he's not going to be in shape. Something's going to be off with him. So that's not going to, I need a fifth. Who am I missing? Brandon Curry. Oh, fuck. That means Brandon. I love Brandon. I quit. I'm done. I have nothing. All right.
If Brandon won, that would make me extremely happy because he's such a good guy.
Dude.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad about that.
Yeah, we looked at it.
See it happening.
I don't dislike any of the guys. Like,
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't really have a personal connection to any of them, really, other than, I mean, I've seen Nick compete in person 4 or 5 times. I've never been to an Olympia, so I've never seen Ramy on stage. I have seen some of the other guys, but yeah, I just want to see them all at their best and let the best man win.
I'm all for that. All right, let's wrap it up, guys. Hope everybody enjoys the show. Like I said a second ago, comment below with your predictions, and we'll see who's right.